Alright, hey y'all, it is July the 12th, 2020. Y'all, we're going to jump into this broadcast, and I want to say that this broadcast is dedicated to a legend out there. And it's partially dedicated to some other people, but I'll talk about them in a second. A legend, and that would be Brenda, from Unwrapped by Brenda. Alright, she has a channel out there. She has a channel, and I'll give a shout out to her channel. Unwrapped by Brenda, and I'm a subscriber. Alright, this one's dedicated to her. Here's the thing, I wanted to jump into it, and I'll probably delete the last stream. The reason is because I have the tendency to get all into the nuance of this topic that we're about to talk about, and then I'll get sidetracked, and I want to say things in the proper order. Right, the proper order for somebody to be able to digest it had they never heard about this topic ever before. I want you to be able to digest it, and I want to not take forever to put it out. And there's all these nuances that I know about it just because I've done all sort of dang research way back in the day. Haven't done it too much lately, but that's because there's not much updates. All right, I want to get and I want to explain it to somebody who's just does not, let's say, never heard of it before. The reason that I want to do that is because I had a conversation at the farmers market that I explained earlier, in which I was talking to some of my people, and I'm not going to name names, but I was talking to them, and I said, you know, I actually made a documentary, and it came up. I said I made a documentary a long time ago because one of the people had sent me a link to a documentary, and it's showing all this zeitgeist type stuff, the stuff that you and I talk about all the time. And it's just to let me know that he's in on it. He knows the things that we know, right? And it's this thing where people are sharing it, you know, all out in the real world. They're like, "Hey, are you like me? Do you know these things?" And I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I do know these things. In fact, I made a documentary one time about this thing, Parkland," and then they were very interested in it. And they were like, "Well, you sent me a link," and I said, "Well, I'll send you a link later." But I gotta say that and I'll give you an example. Had you never seen it before, a long time ago, I actually made a documentary. You can find it in my playlist. I have a lot of playlists that are like really just inconsequential. But all right, this playlist right here, you can see it's about Parkland. I'm going to send them a link to this video. But the documentary itself, although I find it kind of intriguing, and a lot of people, it's got 1.3 thousand views on it, all right, for whatever it's worth. And a lot of people find it very intriguing, especially people who are very well versed in Parkland, because I was pointing out nuances that perhaps they didn't even see, and then they were telling me nuances that perhaps I didn't see. And it was just a love fest, dude. In that era, when I was making those videos, people were sharing all sort of information. It was unbelievable, right? It led me to discover a world of amateur detectives. And when I say amateur, I don't mean that. I'm just saying nobody's paying us to do all the good work we do, right? But the downfall of this video is, especially if you don't like the style, but especially if you don't know anything about Parkland to begin with, it's extremely confusing. All right, it's very hard to follow. So that being said, I'm gonna calm down, and I think I know where I'm going. I think I know how to introduce you to this. So I'm gonna send my man's the link to this video in case if he wants to hear it. This is for people who never heard about this topic before. Parkland, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. You can Google everything what I'm saying right now. Mass shooting, February 14th, 2018. Okay, and I'll be very, very simple because I already just did it earlier, and I don't like to repeat myself necessarily. But okay, I'm introducing you to this thing. I just told you what happened. Mass shooting in a school. This school is in Parkland. That's a town. That town is in a county called Broward County. That's located in South Florida, and that's a wild, wild place. Okay. So big mass shooting. What is it, like 17 people got killed? It was like a record-breaking mass shooting or something. Took place in Florida, and it was the gem of the news. That's what people talked about, like they talk about coronavirus right now. Back then, that's what they talked about so much, right? And it didn't get my interest at first, but I wound up starting and looking into it because it became a rabbit hole of epic proportions. Trust me, it's a gold mine of all things fake and fraudulent and tomfoolery and everything else. It's very extremely disturbing if you if you're to investigate. But okay, to be very like I said, I want you to know the details, the very simple details of what people who do recall Parkland. That's what they know. Is this guy, this young man, Nicholas Cruz? He goes up in the school. He goes up in the first. Okay, he goes up in the school into a particular building. It's one particular building of a bunch of them that are on campus. It's the freshman building. Goes up into the first floor, shoots it all up. People are getting shot up, students and all that, killing them. All right, he goes in the second, and so if you wanted to see all the details of what I'm talking about, it's all over the internet and been archived, and you can see it on the main screen. They'll tell you, and they'll sometimes give you animations about what exactly I'm describing right now. Shoots up the first floor, goes up to the second floor of this building, a 3-story building, and he doesn't shoot anything, I guess. He walks across the hall, goes up to the 3rd story, shoots up the whole 3rd story. This whole incident takes place over the course of about 6, 7, 8 minutes. Okay? Free for all. Imagine the nightmare. Free for all. He's shooting up everybody with an AR-15. Shooting up everybody, just having his way. So imagine the nightmare. This is a big, terrible situation. If you don't recall it, just imagine that situation. That's what's happening. And he's up in the school, shooting it up. Goes to and he goes to the 3rd story, starts shooting that up. Shoots, kills a whole bunch of people. Rains down all sort of carnage. He then, according to the official narrative, and trust me, you can go check it out if you want to. There's a lot of stuff. They have play-by-plays. They have animations. They have all sort of witness testimonials saying that Nicholas Cruz then leaves out the building. He goes down the stairs, 3rd story to the 2nd story to the 1st story, goes out of the door of the building. There's 2 doors in that building. The door that he leaves out of, according to everybody, just everybody you ask, the police are actually surrounding that door and basically looking directly at it. Okay, so like I stated before, that might sound alarming. Doesn't that sound alarming? Isn't that atrocious? But if you were to do some research, you'll notice that they didn't really talk about that very much. But that's exactly what happened, even according to their narratives, even according to their animations. And yeah, back then it took days, weeks, months for all these different various details to be rolled out to us. Alright, but that is their official narrative. He then walked out the front door and supposedly started blending in with students, in which he was able to escape the campus. And mind you, this is all the official narrative. He then escapes the campus having successfully blended in with students, and then he immediately goes to Walmart. He then hangs out at Walmart and doesn't shoot anybody else, just goes to a Subway and gets a soda pop. And I know it sounds like I'm making a joke of it and I'm making it up. No, this is all the official narrative of what they will tell you happened at Parkland. He then goes and hangs out at McDonald's for a little while. Okay? And then after that, meanwhile, nobody knows where this guy is. And that's according to their official narrative. Nobody knows where he is, but it takes about an hour, a couple hours, and then they finally find him. They arrest this young man, right? With no sort of confrontation. He immediately allows himself to be arrested, having supposedly mass shot everybody at the school only hours before. With no incident, he gets arrested, and he's sitting in jail to this day, still awaiting trial, which, like I stated before, that in and of itself is alarming. We're almost 2 years out. He's not even started trial. All right, and so they say, oh, well, this is a guy. We know it's him. We saw him. We saw him. And you might say, who's that? I don't know. Somebody in the sheriff's office. They never really told us any names during all this. You might have all sort of questions if you were to dive down this rabbit hole. They're not going to answer them. All right. But okay, they found out who the shooter was all after the fact. All after the fact that Nicholas Cruz was able to just meander around town for a good long extended period. Now, had it be like that Nicholas Cruz wanted to shoot up a whole bunch of people at Walmart, he could have easily done that, and the cops would still have been none the wiser. Apparently, took them a while to find this guy. Meanwhile, just so you know, it was a totally different jurisdiction that wound up finding this guy. As far as police departments go, it's a totally different district. And so they catch him, they arrest him, he's in jail, he's the murderer, everybody knows it, and that's for certain. Okay? Like I said, you should be alarmed enough by the fact is that he walked out the front door and everybody, all these police were staring at it. Well, they didn't give us that evidence right away. No, they doled it out over time, and that all became revealed to us after probably weeks and weeks. Okay? So, that's alarming by itself. If you were to know that he did that, he was able to accomplish that simple task, which nobody disagrees that he did, then you should know that all sort of police should have been dealt with. Should have been very much dealt with. That never took place. Isn't that alarming? Don't you find that alarming? Even if you know nothing about Parkland, just know those details. Wow, nobody. Oh, well, actually, there was one. He was a scapegoat. His name is Scott Peterson. You can look him up. Scott with one T, by the way, because another one had killed his wife or something like that. Scott with one T Peterson, he was a scapegoat. He was an SRO, which would be an officer that's on duty on campus. And you would imagine that he would try and interfere with someone shooting up the campus. Well, he was thrown under the bus. But meanwhile, it became obvious to everybody and on record that police were watching Nicholas Cruz as he left the building. Okay, so that should be infuriating. It should be, but to some people it's not. To some people that detail is not infuriating in the least. Who cares? That's a minor detail. It's inconsequential. And I'm not talking to any of those people right now. Not at all. Right? I mean, there's nothing I could do for those people. What I'm saying is that detail should be just enraging. All right. So that being said, let me touch upon some other details. All right. So there was no footage. Okay. Here's the thing about it. Okay, this guy, he shot up. You're saying it's open and shut. He shot up the school. There was no footage, and they never came out with footage. And they said from day one, and you can, when I'm talking about Sheriff Israel and all sort of authorities, they said from day one, ain't nobody ever gonna see no footage. All right, but here's the thing. We want to know, you made it a big deal. This is all you were talking about for weeks and weeks and months, and you said you wanted to take away all of our rights because we're all guilty now. So we want to know, how do you know it's open and shut that Nicholas Cruz is the one who did this? Seeing as you're blaming all of us too. Alright, where's the footage? It became all of our business. So many people started asking, well, hey, where's the footage? They say, well, we're not never going to show it to you, but we'll describe to you what that footage was like. Oh, really? And then they even said things, and you could cross-reference all this. They said, well, the footage got all messed up. Oh, the footage got all messed up. See, in retrospect, well, doesn't that sound all like Jeffrey Epstein? Doesn't that sound like in the future, what's her name, Ghislaine? The cameras got all messed up. What do you, they got messed up? The footage? Oh yeah, we can't give you the footage. We promised from day one to never show you the footage, but, see, we can't give you the footage. And this is exactly what they said. Mind you, you should already be alarmed by that. You can cross-reference all this. They said, well, the footage got all messed up because there was smoke grenades and stuff. And somebody threw smoke grenades and it messed up the footage. See? Like, you couldn't see anything. And then later on, they were like, you know what? Never mind. There actually were no smoke grenades. But we're never going to let you see the footage. It's just to say, don't worry about that. It's too gruesome. The general public can't know about it, even though we're going to talk about every last detail that we can and put it on the news every day. But well, you can't see the footage. That's too gruesome. Can't have that. In fact, all of our footage was messed up because of the smoke grenades. And then later on, they were like, there were no smoke grenades. I don't know. Maybe there's a whole bunch of dust because he was shooting the gun off, and it made all this dust, and it malfunctioned the cameras. Oh, really? See, the thing is, people asked for footage back in that day because they knew for certain there would be footage. Because when you think about an affluent, and it turns out that particular school would be an affluent school. That means they had money and resources. They certainly had enough resources to have surveillance cameras. Oh yes, they did have surveillance cameras. They certainly did. You can't see the footage. You're never going to see it. They promised from day one that you're never going to see it. Doesn't that sound alarming? You should be alarmed by that. And all these details you can check out. I don't have time to show them all to you, but this is what I found. Alright, no footage. Also, they got messed up by smoke grenades. Also, there were no smoke grenades. But there is no footage. You're never going to see it. But weeks after that, they said, well, you're never going to see the footage. But let's give you some still frames. We got still frames. Mind you, all this stuff went down. They said, look, we'll show you these still frames of Nicholas Cruz shooting up the school, and if you look at them, that's not so gruesome. Mind you, none of the pictures show him shooting anybody. It shows him with a gun, and you can argue whether or not that's him or not. And he's wearing like a mask or something. It's highly debated, and nobody can. I've been through all the witnesses, and trust me, there's dozens of so-called witnesses. I can't say who's lying, who's not. Well, I know that some people are definitely lying, but I can't say that everybody's lying in that school who said they witnessed all sort of things, hearing things, perhaps getting shot. I couldn't say, right? But you're never going to see the footage. Isn't that alarming? And I'll have you know, to the official narrative, they even later came out and said the reason that they couldn't find Nicholas Cruz for so long, mind you, he was able to go to the Walmart, he was able to go to the Subway, he was able to go to the McDonald's, all on record. The reason that they didn't find him is because they went to the surveillance room. When I say they, I'm guessing, police departments, the sheriff's office. I don't know if FBI was present at that point, but they go, and I think there might have been another jurisdiction that was also there. They go into the surveillance room. As you'd imagine, I mean, if you're trying to perhaps locate a shooter, you have some idea that a shooting is taking place on the campus, it would be a good idea to go to the surveillance room and find out where the shooting is taking place. So they do that, right? They do that, but on record, they say they were very confused. Why were they very confused? They were very confused because the surveillance cameras were on a delay. Now, many people talked about this particular delay, and they weren't sure if it was 23 minutes, 27 minutes, if it was a 30-minute delay, or if it was a 33-minute delay. But they argued about that for a while. It was on a delay. And they were very confused by that. And so it took them a long time to realize that Nicholas Cruz had already left the building. You might say, oh, what are you... That might take you back. A delay? You might start asking questions like, why was it on a delay? I couldn't truthfully give you an answer to that. Why be on delay? Why would surveillance cameras, if you have a surveillance room and you're watching a high school, why would you have all the cameras on delay for about 30 minutes? The short answer to it, and I bet you it's a real long one, fraud. That's why. All sort of fraud. That's another red flag. And mind you, all these details that I'm laying out right now, they were not highly discussed on the media. In fact, they were never brought up. All right. Why on earth, especially in this situation, would you have the surveillance cameras on a delay? You did. According to your own stories. Right? That's why it took you so long to find them. Meanwhile, this footage, we're never going to see it because you promised to never show it to us. Why? It's none of our business until you tell us to give up our rights. Alright, so there's all that kind of, I mean, and the list actually just goes on and on. I have a little list right here, but it actually just goes on and on to consider that the fire alarm, see, fire alarms and fire drills have certain kind of protocol. Right? That is to say, you know, during this whole narrative, Nicholas Cruz somehow sets off the fire alarm, even though, as it turns out, he had nothing to do with setting off the fire alarm. But the fire alarm goes off. And then, so it causes confusion, and that leaves people out in the hallways for Nicholas Cruz to allegedly shoot them. Right? Well, see, that's the thing. If for people who didn't know anything about these sort of things, that actually takes certain protocol. Fire drills and fire alarms and stuff like that, believe it or not, have certain protocol, even and especially after, if you remember, like Columbine and things like that, a long time ago. Fire alarms for that very purpose and their fire drills have that sort of protocol, and in that, you're not going to have people calling fire alarms without knowing what the hell's going on. Right? So the official narrative has people thinking that it's fires and it's a fire drill. They have an assistant principal. All these people, you can check them out, but they've all been silenced. They've all been transferred. They've all been this and that. You know what I'm saying? They've all been basically threatened, probably. But there's an assistant principal who actually called for the fire alarm. Why he did that, I don't know. He'll never be questioned. But there's so many things that happened that were just absolutely inexcusable, that there's questions to, but they ain't never going to give you answers, and it's all very alarming. Right? And the list goes on and on. I don't know what all things that we talk about, but for example, there were rumors, and this is just well documented, for weeks and weeks leading up to this whole incident, that there would be a shooting drill. Alright, why were there rumors? I don't know. To cause all sort of confusion, if you will, because once a supposed alleged shooting actually did happen, nobody really knew whether or not it was a drill or not. There's all sort of things that really, it went under the radar. And the reason all these details and all these questions went under the radar is because they didn't really affect anybody's life. Right? Nobody was scared about getting mass shot up, and you know, it's just kind of fear mongering on the news and stuff. And so some people looked into it, and some people didn't look into it. Some people continued to live their life. Now we're getting into situations that obviously affect your life on a very personal level. Right? So there's no way that you can look away from it. We're seeing it, and we're not exactly surprised by it, but it is creepy, and we don't like it. It's being forced upon us. Right? I just listed out all sort of things that should be very, very alarming about Parkland. Trust me when I say none of these questions were answered. None of these questions were answered. And they never will be answered. The reason is because they're lying. To what extent, I don't know. And I tried to explain what I think really happened, but that actually gets a little confusing. Right? But it's just okay. What I wanted to bring up especially is not only, okay, red flag, alarm bells, all these questions, very simple questions, and they're never going to get answered. Meanwhile, you can dive in and down all these dang rabbit holes considering Parkland and find all sort of other questions, and they're going to be more scandalous. And I could talk probably for days about the nuance, but we don't have time for that right now. All those questions that didn't get answered, and I'll have you know that Alexa Mednick is like, I don't know if I want to drive this point home, and it might seem like I'm harping on it because I am. All right, but all those questions that I just put out for you, all what they said happened. People's heads should have been rolling and stuff. Meanwhile, nobody was really held accountable, right? It didn't affect your lifestyle, not really, not yet. Some people were very concerned about what was going on as far as gun control and different legislation that was being proposed at that particular time. But now it's leaking into our daily lives, and it's the same type of thing. They're mirror images. They are sinister. They're both sinister. They're the same thing. They're related to each other. They are cousins, and it is lying to an epic proportion. And if I were to hit someone off who is brand new to this situation with all the sort of details that I would like to, it would be too much, man. It'd start getting me dizzy. It really honestly would. But here's just a couple real simple ones. And trust me, everybody who researched Parkland, they all know exactly about everything. You're way behind, basically. But I mean, if you never heard of this, yeah, you're way behind. But I want to be gentle. All those red flags, they were never answered. It's like, okay, you were watching him slide out the front door, and he went all across town and just had his way, and none of this adds up. Okay. Alright, so that's when you start questioning, like, what the hell happened here? What kind of incompetence leads up to that? Trust me, a lot of incompetence, but also more so corruption. And also, it's so devious, right? There's so many details I could throw out, but I'm not going to at this particular point. What I want to say is what you're looking at right here to the left. It's another video, and that in of itself could be confusing, a little bit esoteric, and for that I apologize. But it's for the people who know more than just a beginner at Parkland. But let's go to Alexa Midnick. I want to actually look her up on Google right now, just to give you a visual. And everybody knows about Alexa Midnick. Everybody does. But I'll have you know that Alexa Midnick, now before I bring her up, we saw a picture of her to the left, and we want to get more visuals of her, but I forget how it's spelled. I want to say it's just like a jewel of this whole situation. And Alexa Midnick, this lady right here, who I assume you've never seen before, totally disappeared off of the entire world. Is that alarming to you? Do you find that alarming? Do you find all these kids getting shot up and someone doing a moonwalk outside of the school while all these police are watching? Do you find that alarming? Because that's what they said exactly happened. Alexa Midnick. Alright? Sensational. And I know some people might feel certain kind of ways. I think it's sensational. And from what I've seen, people dug up these are just all from her interview that you might not have never heard about, but you need to hear about it, all right? And you just do what I do. You put in Alexa Midnick. And they're trying to censor it. They've always been trying to censor it. But now these people got into all sort of conspiracy theories about Alexa Midnick. All right? I'm not here to debate one way or another about if these various pictures are Alexa Midnick. I guess they are. They kind of look like they are her and stuff. And they did a lot of research. People dove in and were really trying to find out about Alexa Midnick. The reason is because she's sensational. Alright? Not only is, honestly, she's pretty attractive. I think everybody agreed. Very attractive lady. Alright? So they started digging up whatever they could. I mean, I'm talking about investigators by the thousands and the tens of thousands. And they were all trying to dig up. This is a sensational thing. Right? And it's not only because of the physical. It's actually because if you've never seen the video of her interview by the reporter, it was damn ridiculous. She did describe that there must have been a second shooter. Oh, wouldn't that be like, wouldn't you want to look into it? Remember I told you that there is no footage. Alexa Midnick clearly describes that it's her theory that there's a second shooter. And like I said, for people who have heard about it, they all know about it. She's sensational. Alright? She said she thought there was a second shooter. Reporter, that's her laughing. Like, the reporter was like, why do you think it's a second shooter? She's like, because I know that boy Nicholas Cruz. Remind you, all the things that I said, if you never heard of this incident, that's alarming, all the things I said, right? And all those questions that never got answered. They never will be answered. But now we come to Alexa Midnick. She's like, oh, I think there's a second shooter. Why? Because I know that boy Nicholas Cruz. I was talking with him when we were leaving out for the fire drill. I heard the assistant. This is all her. This is a girl who's disappeared from everywhere. Is that alarming? Do you find that alarming? Because remember, well, you probably don't remember, but if you never heard of it, from Parkland came all sort of people who were supposed celebrities, to include David Hogg. His video that I made of him got deleted off of YouTube. That's unfortunate, but a lot of people made videos about David Hogg. He was a supposed celebrity. He was supposed to be like an idol, like a Tom Cruise that everybody was supposed to aspire to or something. And just not sensational at all. That's why you don't remember him. None of the people from Parkland were attractive or sensational. Over here, you got someone with what it takes, Alexa Midnick, and not only doing this wild stuff that people dug up. And rest in peace to that man to the left right there. He died mysteriously, and it had everything to do with Parkland, I bet you. But like I said, so many details. But just dwell upon this, Alexa Midnick. And she was all on that social media. I mean, she was born in that age. So, yeah, she had her Instagram. She had her, like, Facebooks and stuff. That all disappeared since Parkland. Straight disappeared. All right, now they're not doing Alexa. Okay. She said there was a second shooter. That's all you need to know. Why? Because she was straight chilling with Nicholas Cruz. She knew Nicholas Cruz. They were leaving from a fire drill. Her Asian friend, her male Asian friend, and I'm trying to get back to Alexa, the rise of post-tragedy conspiracy. I did not even mean to do all that. They're distracting me. They meant to do it. But, okay, Alexa, she was talking about, well, it was a fire drill, and the assistant principal told us. She got up on the intercom, and trust me, it wasn't the principal. Why wasn't it the principal? Principal wasn't there that day. Why was the principal not there that day? It just so happened he was at the airport, hopping on an airplane. So hopefully he knew what was happening at his school. He's the principal, but he seemed to be none the wiser. Couldn't find out. All right, it was an assistant principal. He called the fire drill. He admitted to calling the fire drill and pulling the fire drill. And he was never questioned ever again about it. In fact, he was transferred, and it is that simple. Don't ever ask him no questions. All right, Alexa Midnick said she's leaving out for a fire drill with Nicholas Cruz. None of the fire drill protocol was followed. None of it. Is there fire drill protocol? Or am I making that up? None of it was followed at all. And nobody was asked questions about it. Is that alarming? Do you find that alarming? All right, Alexa Midnick, she's leaving out for the fire drill because she said the assistant principal got on the intercom and said it was a fire drill. And so she's walking out with Nicholas Cruz. Mind you, that can't even be possible. All right, because if they're leaving out for a fire drill, that means that they don't know that there's shooting taking place in and around that very area. Nicholas Cruz is walking out because it's a fire drill with those people, according to Alexa Midnick. Meanwhile, that can't even really be possible according to the official narrative that says Nicholas Cruz was up in that building, shooting it up for several more minutes. It's not possible. Oh, is that alarming? So there's all sort of details that I found that's just, they all corroborate what it is that I'm telling you right now. It's that simple. But Alexa Midnick, as sensational as she is, straight up disappeared. And I'm not saying, oh, she's attractive and stuff like that, and so it's kind of alarming that she disappeared off of all social media, but she was also like a star softball player, right? And when it comes to athletics, those people just tend to make it into news articles, in which she was in news articles. They tend to make it into like people talking about them, right? Her brother, come to find out, and it's something I found out much later, her brother is actually was a professional baseball player by the last name of Midnick, and you can look that up. And I think he might have retired from professional baseball or whatever, but you know, he's going to have social media, and he does. He has a Twitter and all that. He's still very much in the world. Alexa Midnick, from that day on, totally fell off the world. You might find that alarming because of her interview. And you say, well, what if she was confused and she's giving testimony and she's very confused. Well, she should be able to set the record straight, and that would be sensational. Everyone would love to hear her set her record straight, but it never happened. She disappeared forever, right? Still, I can't find nothing. I can't find her anywhere. I mean, you might find hashtags about her and stuff, but as far as social media, she totally disappeared, and she won't never answer no questions. Why is that? Some people say she's a fake and she's a fraud. I can tell you. But I'll tell you that she was, on record, best friends with a lady by the name of Meadow Pollock. Who's Meadow Pollock? She's one of the people who was viciously killed in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas incident. So imagine that. She's caught up on the news. Hours later, you see it's dusk, and she's talking about an incident in which there had to be two shooters because she was talking to Nicholas Cruz while the supposed shooting was going on. And while the supposed shooting was going on, her very best friend in the world was getting shot dead in that building. Right? It's hours later, and it's about dusk time. And if your very best friend was in a building or even near a building that was getting all shot up, you wouldn't just get interviewed. If you really thought your friend was perhaps killed, you wouldn't be talking like this. Is that alarming? Everything about this was always alarming, right? And it was a lie perpetrated by the very liars who are lying to you today. If you were to go check them out on, television or wherever else, lying today. So they were lying very bad back then, and of course you could perhaps check out a less sensational person by the name of Stacy Lapel. And we're going to end off on Stacy Lapel, but you can talk about dozens of different pretty intriguing people if you wanted to, which honestly just throw a wrench in the whole official narrative of that Nicholas Cruz actually did anything that day. It'd be this lady, Stacy Lapel, and the thing is, I'm sure she's not going to answer no questions ever again, or I don't know if she's on Twitter. Maybe she is. I don't really have time to check that out, but I bet you she ain't answering no questions like that. Well, I mean, questions in reference to her little interview on the TV. If you go to the left, that left-hand side, there's a picture of her doing an interview in which she describes somebody who's nothing like Nicholas Cruz at all. And in fact, decked out in all sort of military garb and stuff like that. Could in no way have been Nicholas Cruz. But she's not going to answer no questions. Do you find that alarming? The same exact liars and before Parkland, they were lying about all sort of other stuff. What happened in that building that day? A lot of people debate on it, those who remember, and they could debate all day long. The answer is we have no clue. Not at all. But although we have no clue what happened, it was a means to convince us to take away our rights, to start surveilling each other and snitching on each other, to start doing this and that, to start monitoring social media, and it was used for all sort of stuff. Right? And all sort of motives were applied to Nicholas Cruz. None of those ever added up. All the motives they tried to throw at him, be it from white supremacy to being upset by a girl, none of that added up. It just comes, it leads me to believe, from all that I've seen, to be very brief about it. I don't want to go on too long about it, but I do believe people got shot at. That's the thing. Either way, all what I said is very alarming, and there's all sort of stuff that I left out. Right? And it was meant to immediately take away our rights. Oh, isn't that a coincidence? Oh, now we're all guilty. Oh, and you got all these testimonies, but even though none of them add up, we can't ask you any questions. We can't even ask you the most simple of questions. Where's that footage? Oh, there is no footage. The footage got all messed up. Oh, yeah. Just like Jeffrey Epstein got all messed up. I don't know what happened to the footage. You ain't gonna see that. Right? And so just like coronavirus or whatever else coming down the pike, you're guilty. You did it. You're guilty. We got all this stuff. We're getting very emotional, and the reporters are crying on the TV. Why? Because you and your stupid rights. I'm going to take away all your rights so that we don't have no reason to cry on the television and tell you these sort of things. Oh, you have the simplest of questions? We ain't going to answer them ever. Oh, you want to see footage? No, we don't have that footage. Oh, that footage don't exist. Oh, smoke grenades. Oh, I don't know. The footage, you're never going to see the footage. It's open and shut. We know he acted alone. No, he's not a patsy. Alright? And so before we get out of here, although I don't want to go into all sort of detail, no, he's not a patsy. No, we haven't been, and here's the thing, all compartmentalized. I don't know anybody's intentions. All I know is that they work for somebody, and that somebody doesn't want us to have rights, and that somebody wants to slap a mask on our face and embarrass ourselves and have us participating in a satanic ritual, whether you know it or not. Those same people, they were operating back then, they're not going to answer no questions. They're being over the top sensational. They want to take all your rights, and it's going to continue. But even back then, before it really rocked our lifestyle, they were doing such certain sinister things as implying that somebody got shot, that all these kids got shot up in a high school, and it's somehow our fault. Alright, you got Stacy LaPel. Alright, she's not going to answer no questions about what it is she's seen. She's changed her testimonial and all sort of things. There's all sort of evidence that you're never going to see, but there is all these things that they put out that are beyond preposterous if you know what it is that I know right now. That nobody was held accountable. All these officers supposedly watching Nicholas Cruz leave out of the building, they're not held accountable. The person who called the fire alarm, that assistant principal, he's not held accountable. The person, this is everybody, the people who were, the assistant principals who were in the surveillance room while Nicholas Cruz was particularly shooting, they're not held accountable. Nobody's held accountable, right? Because it wasn't pressing enough. I don't think enough of us really were confronted by our lifestyle wasn't stifled yet. Now it is. All right. But okay, now that it is, and now that all the cards are on the table, just to get out of here, I want to describe that Nicholas Cruz, and I want to tell the story in much more detail at a different time. But Nicholas Cruz was a wind-up toy. And you might not know what that is. You can psychologically manipulate a person in certain ways by playing games with their mind. And you can cause them to do whatever you want. And this is all well documented for a long time. Alright? Just the techniques of doing that. Alright, Nicholas Cruz was a wind-up toy, and actually, I just want to say, it took a lot of diving to find this out. A wind-up toy since he was 5 years old. A 5-year-old little boy. Now, to give you a background on Nicholas Cruz, and I might as well put up his face. Stacy LaPel doesn't have a face that, honestly, I'm very comfortable with anyways. But Nicholas Cruz, this young man at 19, he was made a wind-up toy. And you might say, well, if you're not familiar, how do they do that? It's through psychological mind games. Now, here's the thing. I know it's a lot to throw at you, but all sort of technology was involved in that as well. You can Google, and it'd be hard to Google, but you can search engine V2K. I'm not sure if that's the abbreviation, V2K technology. And it won't take you very long to figure out, well, not only has V2K, which is voice to skull technology, not only has that existed for a long time, but they've in fact been joking about it for a long time. Alright? This is something that people have come out and talked about, have existed, and they've they weren't talking about like for example, one of the first times I heard of V2K technology was when they were joking about using it on Middle Eastern people during Middle Eastern wars. And the guy who I heard joking about it, he's like, "Oh man, we're going to think that they're listening to Allah or something." They don't know where the voice is coming from. We shoot it at them with a gun, with this ray gun and stuff like that. That was actually involved in this. And no, I had no idea this was going to be involved. It's just what I came to find out. Okay, he's a wind-up toy, and he's being messed with for years. So imagine the amount of preparation that took place. And of course, I don't expect you to take me at my word, but if you were to look into all the details, you're gonna find out that this is where the rabbit hole leads. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but you're gonna find out this is where it leads. Since he was 5 years old, people were shooting ray guns and voices into his head. Right? Does that happen every time? No, I don't know what happens every time. I'm saying from what I investigated, this specific incident, yeah, it did happen. And they were pointing ray guns since he was 5. Who's they? Well, it's kind of hard to say who's they, but imagine a paramilitary type agent. Perhaps he works in the police department. Perhaps he doesn't. Perhaps he has experience in the military. This and that. I don't know. But he rides around, and trust me, it takes years. And that's what's mind-blowing. Years of preparation. Trying to foster wind-up toys. Putting stuff in their head, voices in their head, little directions in their head, telling them to kill, steal, destroy. You can find everything that I'm talking about right now is backed up by documentation, be it from transcripts, interrogation transcripts, witness testimonials, just how it all played out. So this young man, it's a huge lead up for years. Wind up toy. Okay? And then what happens, just to be as brief as I possibly can, and hopefully I want to make it on this evening for a live stream. But they not only do these kind of operations on him, but they're likely doing it on other people as well for years. And they keep him in their back pocket, right? For what reason? For a reason such as this, right? And so it might be from 5 years old that he gets a ray gun shot at his head. And trust me, the technology existed well before this ever started happening to Nicholas Cruz. And so they convince him to kind of like I said, they try to influence him to steal, kill, and destroy. But at the same time, they become like a companion to Nicholas Cruz because he's kind of a loner, if you will, in lots of ways. All right, he never knew his real parents. He was adopted by parents. His father, who adopted him, that guy died when he was 5 years old. And just recently, before the whole incident took place, his adopted mother died. All right, a loner, and actually, the prime opportunity for someone you'd wind up. He's very much a loner, autistic, if you will. Doesn't have no one to really speak out for him. Oh, it just so happens he was in ROTC, so he has experience with weapons. It just so happened that his adopted father was in the Navy or in the Marines or something. And I don't know, who's to say? Perhaps he idolized his long dead adopted father. Who's to say? He just became the perfect opportunity. Okay, so through not only shooting voices into his head from time to time, I don't know how often or frequent it was. Not only that, they also convinced Nicholas Cruz, who's they, other different people who are all conspiring to make this behind the scenes all sort of happen. Okay, certain people from the school, who would have to be from the faculty, no doubt, are from the faculty, they convinced Nicholas Cruz to at least have correspondence with be them federal agents. I don't know what they would describe them as. Like I said, paramilitary. Somebody told Nicholas Cruz to be a part of a drill. And this is to explain a couple of things why he made a manifesto. It was all play and pretend. The manifesto never made sense. It was all play and pretend, and they convinced him to be a part of a drill, All while this is going on, and days are leading up to this instance. Like I said, they've been shooting voices into his head since he was 5 years old. But over the next, finally he's 19 years old, all the way up until then, now they're starting to realize, okay, he's becoming exactly who he'd want to set up. Set up? Why would they want to set someone up? I don't know. If we're just be very simple about it, they want to take away everyone's rights. They need somebody, they need a sob story, they need something really bad. Who benefits from it? Oh, I wonder. They need something really bad. So they start to see their prime suspects. They see, okay, who can we get to be on the scene and take part in a drill? Now it's going to be a mass shooting drill. Now we're not telling anybody when this mass shooting drill is taking place, but we are successfully having rumors being distributed all throughout Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. All this is well documented. And I trust that you know I'm not making any of this up, but you could check it all out if you wanted to. People were distributing rumors all over that there was going to be a mass shooting drill that took place any moment. And although it's going to look and sound very real, to just remember it's a drill. Those very people are the same people who talked to Nicholas Cruz and said, hey, buddy, you can be a part of a drill, and after you're done, we're all done playing and pretending, you're going to get an award and stuff, and we're going to let you know that we appreciate you, and we know that you're a loner and stuff, but just go ahead and participate. And so meanwhile, this whole time, Nicholas Cruz is getting, I know this is wild, but he's getting voices sent into his head. And I don't know what exactly he's listening to and not listening to. And through the voices and through corroboration with be it the faculty or whatever federal agents they hook Nicholas Cruz up with, he winds up coming to campus at the exact time, exactly how they said he did, when he did, at that particular time, to whatever in the afternoon. He did come to campus. He did think he was part of a drill. They did get pictures of him on the surveillance footage that you'll never see. They promised you'll never see it. And because roughly this is what happened. Nicholas Cruz, mind you, all the questions, we already talked about all you need to know about, right? So Nicholas Cruz goes up into the building. He was coaxed into going. He thinks he's part of a drill. He whips out his gun and stuff, even according to his manifesto, he was going to go up to the third floor immediately and start shooting people from the third floor. That's according to his own manifesto. So he's about to go up to the third floor. And as he's doing it, somebody who's not Nicholas Cruz, who's that person? I don't know. But somebody who's not Nicholas Cruz goes throughout the first floor. Nicholas Cruz is headed to the third floor. He thinks it's a drill. So, someone's on the first floor. They start either shooting up the school for real, or it's all playing pretend. I don't know what it is. Who's to say? Everybody was confused. Every last one of these things deserves to have people coming to justice and being hung from high trees. Alright, but it said we don't get no answers. Okay, so Nicholas Cruz, he's going to the third floor somehow. Someone starts shooting up the first floor or something. Nicholas Cruz hears this. Now, he's the guy with the gun. He's the guy in the drill who thinks he's got the gun. And he's about to shoot up everybody. He thought he was going to do it on the third floor just like he said on his manifesto. Before he gets to the third floor, it seems to be shots fired. Oh, wouldn't that be confusing? Yeah, it'd be very confusing. Certain kind of paramilitary people who were described by Stacy Lapel, by the way, they go onto the first floor and start shooting it up, either playing or pretending or doing it for real. I'm not the authority. I'm just saying this is what happened. Nicholas Cruz gets very confused by it. He's like, I'm the shooter. I'm supposed to be doing the shooting, right? And yet I hear gunshots come from somewhere else. What the hell's going on? What's going on here? And then Nicholas Cruz, in his height of his confusion, is like, what's going on here? Maybe I should just leave. And he does leave. And he does. And he doesn't know what's going on. Right? He's not sure. He thinks it might be a drill. There's like a fire alarm going on. Now people are leaving for the fire drill. This whole thing's a drill. Nicholas Cruz in his head, he's like, Well, this whole thing's a drill. I don't know what's going on. Fire alarm's going off. People are evacuating the building. Maybe I'll leave with them. I guess I'm not the shooter. Okay, so all sort of people pour out the school building, and you might think, well, it's hard for them to do while the first floor of the building is getting shot up. Yeah, that's all. There are all sort of questions behind that. Yeah, it is kind of hard to do, isn't it? It is kind of hard to do. That's weird. But he leaves out, and Alexa Mendick runs into him. They talk for a little while, and they're all very confused. Nicholas Cruz walks out the door, and this supposed incident carries on for another few minutes. Nicholas Cruz is no longer there. He's not in that building. But supposedly there's someone in the building and they're shooting it up. What the hell? Supposedly there's someone in the building and they're shooting it up on the third floor. Nicholas Cruz is no longer there. He's talking to Alexa Mendick, who straight up disappeared. The best friends of Meadow Pollock, who is brutally murdered on the third floor while Alexa was talking to Nicholas Cruz. Alright, this guy's sitting in jail and he will never get out. He's been convinced that he probably did do it. I mean, he's so confused. Alright, so my thing is, what I believe, and it's very controversial, I'm going to get up out of here, but it's that people actually were getting shot by, and also fake guns were going off too, man. They wanted everything to be so confusing. They said smoke grenades, maybe there are smoke grenades, maybe there's not smoke grenades. Some people were some people heard shots being fired by the football field. All sort of details. They started off with people being shot outside of the building, and then come to find out nobody was shot outside of the building. Oh, and then if someone was being shot on the second floor, then it came to find out nobody was shot on the second floor. The narrative changed. It changed from first nobody got shot on the third floor to everybody and their mama got shot up on the third floor. Okay, so Nicholas Cruz, very, very confused. He was talking to Alexa Mendick, and they didn't really say too much, but he wanders off. And then he later, and this is all documented, but he later talks to some other people and says, hey, man, we all got to get out of here, you guys. Like, while all the children are wandering on and off campus at this point, he blends in with someone and starts talking to them about their futures in college and stuff. And the fact is, he wanted to go to trade school and just weird, absolutely normal things like that. Right after he supposedly shot up everybody at school. Obviously he didn't. And it becomes that simple. Obviously he didn't. And some people argue that nothing happened at all. Well, maybe it didn't. But obviously Nicholas Cruz had nothing to do with it. Now you got him in jail. And you've been villainizing him this whole time. And it's shameless, and he's been in jail, and y'all still villainizing him. And you're going over the top with it. And I don't know if he'll ever have a trial. Right? And of course, with this corona going on and stuff, man, by all means, probably will never have a trial. Right? But I wanted to point all that out. And then Nicholas Cruz, okay, well, after he escaped, here's the thing. He's very confused, right? He goes to, like I said, and nobody disputes this, Walmart, Subway, gets a soda pop, goes to McDonald's, hangs out. He actually talks to the brother, and it goes on and on, but to the brother of one of the ladies killed there at the shooting, asks him for a ride, believe it or not, and just having a very casual conversation with people that he's known for a long time. And then he wanders out of there, and he gets tackled by a jurisdiction of people it's a different area, like Coral Springs, I think, police department. They wind up tackling him. And from there, you see video evidence of Nicholas Cruz not having the slightest clue of what's going on, being very confused. And then they tell him that he shot up the whole school, and now he's arrested for it. And then he becomes terrified, and he actually throws up, and all sort of stuff, man. And that's actually how it went down, right? And that's all how it happened. And now, due to the voice guys, I know it sounds cartoonish, but the technology has existed for a long time. Due to the voices being shot into his head, he's semi-convinced that he actually did it. Everybody says he did it. No, nobody has evidence. Nobody's ever even. They promised to never show anybody any of the evidence. They promised it. And so they all told Nicholas Cruz he did it. Now he's hearing voices still in his head telling him that he did do it. And so he's convinced that he did it, probably. Right. And okay, just to go ahead and end this whole broadcast, man, I appreciate it. I don't know, is Brenda in the building? Shaky88, oh dang. Oh, Shaky88. Oh, this whole thing is dedicated to you as well. But it's dedicated also to Unwrapped by Brenda. And, you know, Lord knows how stuff goes on Sundays. But that's the quickest way I can throw it. It is that wild. Oh, you don't believe it? I don't expect you to believe it. Shaky88 knows exactly what I'm talking about. He said Manchurian candidate. The gym teacher said he knew there was a drill. So many teachers said, oh, I know there was a drill. Yeah, they were all talking about a drill. All of it. And it's just like very easily found. And then when you put the pieces together, obviously an absurd lie at every length. And it did deal with people living and dying, just like this coronavirus and things like that. And you are also guilty. You're immediately guilty, and you're a white supremacist and this and that, because this guy supposedly did stuff. We don't have any evidence that he ever did anything, but we have this BS evidence. We have animations, so throw them at you. That didn't affect hardly anyone's lifestyle, right? Unfortunately, some jurisdictions, now they started getting gun legislation, and they tried to fight him off the best they could, right? But now their lies, these same people from the same place are telling the same kind of lies, and now it's coronavirus. You're still guilty. We're still going to take away all your rights, and we're going to embarrass you in public, and we're just have you feeling all uncomfortable everywhere you go. It's the same damn people. And yeah, they do have that sort of technology, right? And that's a very simple way that I could put it. And, you know, of course, you can check out all of what it is that I'm talking about. And I appreciate y'all, everybody out there. But later on, after I get some stuff together, right, I have a couple hours. I plan to come back in the evening. And I want to talk about, just because I agree with people out there, man, these sort of things, what I'm talking about, it seems like I'm dwelling upon them. And I might reiterate from time to time. I just keep talking about it. I want to talk about it very clearly. I want to tell someone in 5 minutes everything they need to know about Parkland, right? Because it is that simple. All right, but at the same time, I'm probably going to get away from, not permanently, but start leaning towards more positive things, you know. While I do have some time, and I don't have much time, right? Before I get off this live stream, I just want to say that I'm gonna hopefully hop on a live stream later on this evening. But I've noticed for sure that with all the things that I've taken onto my plate as of recently, during all this chaos, I've actually, just like a lot of people probably have, went out and got a second job, right? And trust me, that takes a lot of the time during the week, and I just literally don't have any time to do all the things that I want to do on here with y'all and stuff. And honestly, more than anything else, I want to have conversations with y'all. And I've seen all my good kinfolk here on the internet. I see them doing all what I want to do, having big long conversations with people, talking about all this intense stuff that everybody, you're gonna have to figure it out. Either you're gonna figure it out or you're not. Like, for example, either you're gonna walk around and love wearing a mask, even in the parking lot, even when you're walking around your neighborhood, and even when you're riding a bicycle. And I've seen all these things. And you're not going to be, it's like, I know you're a human being, but also I don't want to have nothing to do with you at all. Nothing at all. Right? And maybe you have an immune system thing and you're being careful. Okay, I understand that. Everybody else, I don't care anything about it. I just want to talk at no end with all the people who are not wearing the damn mask. Who had the nerve to ask a question? You're saying all these kids got shot up in a high school, and I can't ask no questions? It's amazing. Like, and now they're saying, oh, our lifestyle's on hold and stuff like that, and it's all messed up. Right? I see that. I still see that. And although I haven't been uploading much on the internet, it's because just extreme time constraints. In fact, I want to spend part of today meal prepping and stuff for throughout the week, because I literally have no time. I can't even make food during the week. That's how little time I have, man. But while I had that little time, I still have been on the internet, and I've been looking at people even on YouTube still. Some of the people out there, and I gotta give them mad props. And now that I've got this second job, actually, I have the ability finally to responsibly be able to. I want to give them money because there's a lot of people who's coming up, and they're really putting in work, and they're giving us quality stuff, even on YouTube still, and it's just amazing. It's like, now that I've sacrificed the time that it takes to make certain videos or whatever, investigations, and share with people, I don't have that time during the week. So what I want to do is support other people, and I've been dwelling upon that. There's certain other people who I want to support as much as I can, and there's people behind them and lists who's like, oh man, they deserve support. I mean, I have some money to play with and stuff. That's the benefit of having the second job. It's not a lot, but I can do that, and I want to do that. But furthermore, while I do have some time, and that's the thing about it, I can't provide all what I want to on the internet. I can't. And I see people out there, and they're doing the best they can, and they might not have some time. Like Shaky88, he does wonderful stuff. And who knows, maybe he'd have to get a second and third job. Maybe he already has 2 and 3 jobs, right? Sometimes people have to bow out. And at this point in time, in my internet game, I do have to bow out a little bit because I don't even have time. But I do want to support those other people who are doing it, who have found a way to financially be able to do it. And I know that I could shell out some shekels and stuff, just even if it's a couple nickels. If I could do something, throw it at them, I want to do it because that's all I'm capable of doing. And furthermore, that's why I want to have a stream tonight. And I already have a list. I mean, it's a never-ending list of people who are doing it, who are standing up, who are going on the internet, not only that, in the real world, and they're having rallies and stuff, and they're putting their neck on the line, and I'm just sitting here chomping on the bit, trying to get enough money to like make sure I can hold down a vehicle so I can get out to these real places. And I want to stand up because the thing is that we're in dire straits. I mean, this stuff is coming to a head. They're not gonna let go. You think it's bad? Oh yeah, it's gonna get worse. They can't let go of their power and their manipulation and their ultimate, extremely recognizable lies. They can't get away from them. So they're only going to go harder. They're only going to go harder. Meanwhile, there's people, as I might get y'all disillusioned, it might get y'all depressed. There's people in the game, in the fight, in the field right now who we're going to dwell upon them later. We're going to dwell upon them. And we might not be Bill Gates, we might not be Lil Wayne, or as far as we might not have a lot of money, but we have a little bit of money. And even if we don't have a little bit of money, it don't even matter. We can click like, we can click share, we can click like on some people, we can share some people, we can give them some money, or we could do whatever. We could just even go on the internet and talk about the people, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about all sort of legends and heroes, actual heroes. I don't mean you slap a mask on your face and you're a hero. No, I mean a real hero. Alright? I mean someone who's stepping up and who won't be conquered and who won't be enslaved so easily. Alright? So I'm gonna get out of here and stuff, and I'll leave you with this. All this stuff, I try to make it as simple as possible. It can get more complex. It gets way more complex. We dive down these rabbit holes. It's all confusing. It's so simple, and I'll leave you with this. Okay, here's the question for anybody out there, and this is what's going to turn the tide. Be it masks, mandatory masks, be it a mandatory vaccine, be it trying to take away our guns and our rights, and be it trying to take away our free speech and take away the churches and this and that, be it all what they do. People dispute whether or not it's going on. The most simple question I can think of right now is whether or not Satanism exists. Does Satanism exist? And if it does, where is it? Satanic ritual abuse, satanic rituals, Satanism. Where is that taking place? Does it exist? And I know that if we go out in the public and ask people, the majority of the people, they'll be wearing masks, and they'll tell us, no, that doesn't exist. Satanism doesn't exist. Satanic ritual abuse doesn't exist. Satanic rituals do not exist, only in our fantasies, and we made them all up. Those people, don't worry about those people. They'll do whatever they do. But if it does exist, it's going to cause you to ask, well, where is it happening? And are these rituals being done upon us? I'm here to tell you that they are. And now we're all made to just, even if not conscientiously, purposefully participate in these satanic rituals. It's swept the globe, or swept the flat earth, or it's whatever it is, it swept it. And everybody's participating in satanic rituals. Right? And they bought into all sort of lies that are absurd. And they're going to continue, and it's only going to get worse because you're dealing with Satanism. It's a real thing. And I'll holler at y'all a little bit later, man. I appreciate all y'all. Shaky88, that gym teacher. Oh, yeah. They'll get you. It's Satanism, and they'll stop at nothing. Yeah, they have all sort of technology. They're going to get you with it. Oh, yeah, they're planning on a second wave. They're lying, and they've been lying. Right? They want to slap a mask on your face. And I'll holler at y'all a little bit later.